Hey, Jameson, welcome to the show. It's a way of getting started. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Jameson Goforth. I'm in Reno, Nevada. I'm actually in Sparks, but six in one, half dozen in the other. Um, I've been in transportation for a long time, lots of operations roles, sales roles. Now I'm over doing some brokerage, truckload, things like that. And
Yeah.
got a wife and a young kid.
So you get some
So,
motivation?
yeah, absolutely. Got to make those numbers, right?
Yeah. And how'd you get into sales?
Well, like I said, I started in operations, right? So I kind of just fell into transportation,
Yeah.
like many people do with their industry. It just happened, and started doing some other things. And then sales has always been appealing to me. Opportunity came up, and thankfully, I was at an organization where they were eager to take a chance on a younger person to take it on, and they did, and the rest is history.
How was the adjustment?
It was difficult, just like anything else, but you just like everything else, you pour yourself into it, put everything you can into it, and be a good person, and it'll work out, right? That's
Yeah.
those are the basics. Unless you're a heart surgeon, just be a good person, work hard, you'll be all right.
And I work with some people in that space. It's pretty hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's very competitive. It's very very competitive, but it's fun. I mean it changes every day. Like right now with the coronavirus, right? Everybody is slowing down. The market's tanking. We're out of control. I mean we can't. I mean we can't take 2 seconds away. So it's exciting. It's volatile, up and down all the time, but it's fun.
And who are your typical clients?
Well, I mean really anybody that's shipping, right? I mean
That's
we have
everybody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's everybody. 90% of everything that moves in this country as a commodity moves on trucks. So we do a lot of truckload. We do intermodal, so rail stuff. We do residential deliveries, which you can only imagine the potential in that market and where that's going.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a there's a vast array.
And who do you call on?
Well, it depends, right? So at smaller locations, smaller companies, oftentimes it's the same guy that's loading the truck is making the decision on
What
who
truck?
gets what truck it's going on, right?
Yeah.
And then at other times though, it's the CFO. It's the a lot of times we get transportation managers, traffic managers. That's the general niche, but you got to be a chameleon because you could be talking at one call you're talking to the guy loading the forklift, and then at the very next call it's the CFO. So a lot of in-person meetings rather than phone. So you got to be prepared.
Do you do the drop-bys?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, all the time, man. They're my favorite part. I always, anytime. So I'm in sales leadership now, but anytime that I'm riding with one of my guys or gals, I'm like, "What's that? Let's stop in there. We got 5 minutes. Let's just go drop a card." And it's a lot of fun, man. That's the best part of the job.
Yeah, one of the first jobs I had in college was I was the recipient of it. I ran shipping and receiving and did some procurement at a manufacturing company. So, and I was 19-year-old kid,
Yeah.
right? So the receptionist would call and he goes, "Hey, there's somebody here from some company. You want to talk to them?" I go, "Am I supposed to?"
Yeah. Do they have anything in their hands?
I don't know. And that's kind of kind of an overlooked skill to drop by, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've just got to be able to be brave. And so many people say it, but the reality is you're going to get 99 no's before the one. Don't give up at 98. Like it's unbelievable. I mean, the bravery and the charisma that people have to go in, it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And then one of my first sales jobs, I was doing the drop bys.
Yeah.
And boy, you're right. And this is a long time ago. But why'd you pick transportation? Was it just a natural or just a progression? Or?
I had a friend that got me into it right at the beginning, just part time. I graduated high school on Saturday, started on Monday, right? And it kept going. It's an exciting industry. The people are fantastic. I mean, it's incredibly blue collar all the way through. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of joking around, and I gravitated towards that problem solving everywhere. Every day is a new challenge. So I just never stopped, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And what gave you this resilience and the continuing to go after it instead of just give up.
It's going to sound awfully cliche, but we have, I mean, the leaders in our organization. I've been at one organization since the Monday after I graduated high school. And the reason why is because they just over and over and over continually take chances, right? See potential, throw them in before they're ready, and sink or swim, right? And they give you all the help you need, but it's up to you. So I think
Yeah.
that kept driving it. Is I always knew that right around the corner there was something else that I was going to be able to do. I don't think I'd have to go look at my resume, but other than my very first job, I don't think I've done anything for longer than 2 years. It's
Yeah.
always switching up, and that's a really key point for. I'm 30, right? I just turned 30 in December. So for those listening, like that kept me here. It probably wouldn't have if the organization wasn't built that way and didn't intentionally promote what they saw as talented. So that's huge.
Yeah. And was there something in your childhood or high school that kind of prepared you for this? Was it sports? Was it a hardship? Was it?
Man, I want to give you something really interesting. I'm a big sports guy, incredibly competitive, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was anything unique. I wish I could give you something better, Brian. I know that.
Well, I mean, for me, it was
Yeah.
money motivation,
Hmm.
right? I could have done other stuff, but I saw the salespeople making 2 or 3 times what I was making, and weren't smarter and didn't work as hard as I did.
Yeah.
And I was
It's
like,
funny how that goes, huh?
well, I because they take me along. I was the guy who would talk about the product.
Yeah.
Out of the 60 minutes, I was 50 of them.
Yeah.
And I go, I think I can do the other 10,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And it has its hard parts, believe
Yeah.
me, and it has its
Yeah.
stresses, right?
It's getting that meeting, right?
You got to get
That,
the meeting,
yeah.
you got to keep it moving,
Yeah.
you can't waste your time, you got to utilize your time appropriately,
Mhm.
you got to know what to do next, and you get someone yelling at you all the time.
What industry did you start in from a sales perspective?
It was software. So I was like a
Oh,
software
talk about
developer,
brutal. Yeah.
which was long hours, but as long as you produced, you were left alone.
Yeah.
But I saw the salespeople driving Porsches, all dressed up,
Yeah.
flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, can you come visit this customer with me? I go, sure, talk to my manager. He goes, yeah, go ahead. And I would go and I do all this, what I thought was most of the work, but it was part of the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And then one of the reps quit. And I went to the VP. I go, do you need a salesperson?
Yeah.
And he goes, your timing's incredible.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's awesome. That's
Yeah. So what do you see it taking to be successful in your space?
I don't know that it's any different than any other space, right? I think I believe personally in three principles, right? Pipeline is important, and we could go on a 3-hour talk about how to get that, but for the sake of brevity, pipeline, right? You live and die by it. Managing churn, whether that's up or down, right? I mean, if you're year over year up, year over year down, you got to be in front of those customers and really talking to them. And I don't think we put enough emphasis on that as a sales community, right? Like
Right.
just calling to say thank you on a customer that shipped more this month than last month, or bought more, or added some licenses if you're selling software, whatever that is. That phone call will do more than you could ever do by taking even taking them to lunch or anything. Hey, you noticed exactly what my business is doing, and you reached out. And then lastly is just resiliency, right? Like, and I know that's again brevity, but I think it's so important that we're following. I'm a process guy at nature, right? Like I think follow that process. We know what it leads to the results. Keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
And keep going. And so if you can do those three things, I think you can be successful in especially transportation, but in any industry.
And what do you focus on now?
From as a sales leader,
Yeah.
yeah. So from sales ops standpoint, right? I think that's a good way to break it down. I've got a very simple formula, and I read it somewhere. I can't take credit for it, and I don't remember where I read it. I've Googled it. I have searched every book. I mean, I can't remember. So I want to give credit to whoever did this, but I can't. And it's just a 4-step process, right? Experiment, execute, track, and repeat.
Yeah.
And if you can do those four things, right, you're constantly what's next. And I'm not talking about products or strategies. I'm talking about truly, hey, everything. How do I shape my day? Right? How do I message this to the team? How are they receiving it?
Yeah.
Experiment. Maybe I change it up. Is it a video call? Is it, because we're all remote and
Right.
it's hard. Is it a video call? Is it an email or 30-minute uh, phone calls enough to stay engaged, or do I need to reach out in other ways? And then you execute, right? We're going to try it, and then you track it. How are we doing? And that's very simple. That's the easiest part of it, right? Did the numbers go up or down?
Yeah.
And then repeat. Just keep going until you find what works.
Yeah. Because I think too many reps get stuck in a rut,
Mm-hmm.
and they think they either know it or they don't know it, or they've got it or don't got it.
Yeah.
I like that cyclical, what I call compounding,
Mm-hmm.
because we're circadian creatures. So you ever remember the movie Groundhog Day?
Yeah. Yeah.
That every scene started the same
Yep.
song, Sonny and Cher. He'd wake up, smash the alarm, and it took 2 or 3 days before he started to learn.
Yeah.
The foot in the puddle, the life insurance salesman trying to hit him up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we do naturally. We get stuck in our habits, and some habits are good, some are bad, but we don't have
Mm-hmm.
enough compounding.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, no, I would entirely agree with that. You got to keep switching it up, and don't switch up things that are working, right? I'm not trying to
Right.
say throw the playbook out every day, but let's keep trying. And I think my biggest success so far, and I've had so many failures that we could do another hour on that. But I think my biggest success so far is it's easy when you're coming out of that individual contributor role into a sales leadership role to say, hey, this is how I did it, and this is what's going on, and you guys aren't working, and I knew what you were doing before. And you should not change the message to be anything short of nice. If you can't be nice, if you can't be encouraging, you got the wrong people. It's not you. You don't have to change your message, right? I'm never going to raise my voice. I'm never going to be, I want to talk about the Dodgers, man. I want to talk about, like, let's get through the pipeline crap and then let's be buddies. And if I can't do that, I'm going to work with you until absolutely I can't. Right. And then you might just be the wrong person. That's the biggest success my biggest realization was just be yourself and enjoy it and be there when people need you.
Yeah. I used to have this interview question when I asked the man, tell me about your ideal rep. And if the hiring manager said, someone just like me, I'd always run as fast as I can. Because it's like,
get out.
so you think your way is the only way,
Right.
as opposed to the things you talk about, resilience, experimental,
Yep.
track it, improve it. Those things are great. Yeah, I can work with that person, but somebody who wants me to turn into them.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure you've probably seen it. You cover a large geography.
The whole nation. Yeah.
Yeah. So different things work in different places.
Yep.
With different size companies. So you probably have a bunch of people with very different personalities.
Very different accents, different personalities, different. I mean, you start getting up into the Northeast, and I'm a West Coast guy, so that's a shock when you go from your bubble to start seeing everything.
Yeah, yeah. And I used to bring my manager, who was a Manhattan guy, down to Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
And the way they react is like,
yeah.
Literally one time they said, "Did you used to sell vacuum cleaners?" And it's like, you have to be that chameleon.
Yep.
Right? Because if you went into another country, you wouldn't assume that they do business your way.
Yep.
You kind of got to do it their way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny how you start talking to people, especially as you get as drastic as like East Coast to West Coast, and they're like, you guys don't do anything fast enough over there. And it's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. And so what do you look for in reps?
Oh man. Well, this one I can quote Patrick Lencioni, sorry. Humble, Hungry, Smart, right? That was introduced to me by my previous boss, that book. And that's fantastic, right? So humble in the sense of, like you're saying, right? Hey, people do things differently. It's okay. And I'm not always perfect. I'm open to criticism that's constructive, and at the same token, I'm willing to stand my ground when I know I'm right. And so that's huge. And then hungry, right? Willing to put in the work. I always tell everybody, I will never demand you work till 9 p.m., right? But I want the guy or gal that when you got to, you do,
Yeah.
like, and let's be hungry about overwhelmingly ambitious, right? Like overwhelmingly, I think curiosity is a huge part of being hungry, right? How curious are you? Are you asking me any questions at all? Like,
Right.
because if you're not asking me, you're definitely not going to ask the customer.
Right.
So I'm looking for curious, lumped into that hungry. And then smart really has nothing to do with intellectually smart. I'm sure you've read the book, or if you haven't, people that are going to read that or watch this are. It's all EQ, which I think is the number one. Right? How are you situationally aware? Do you understand your own shortcomings? Do you also know where you kick ass? I'm sorry if I can't say that, but do you know where you're awesome? Do you know
Yeah.
where you're a rock star? Because that's just as important, because you should double down there while you're trying to improve the other areas. So humble, hungry, and smart.
Yeah.
The Ideal Team Player is the name of the book, if you guys want to read it.
And what have you seen gone wrong? Have you made some bad hires?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thankful that it's only been a couple, right?
Oh,
But the problem is, and I hit that hard, right? I hold myself to a pretty high standard. And again, I've got some exceptional leaders around me who have kind of said, hey, nobody bats 1,000 when you're hiring, and what I've seen gone wrong is the hungry part mostly, right? I think the humble and the smart, you take them out to lunch and see how they treat the waiter, things like that. All those, cliche things, but they work. Smart, you can kind of get that in a social interaction too. But that hungry piece, everybody's hungry during an interview,
yeah.
right? Everybody's
I
like,
want a job.
no, I'm there every day. And oh, you know what? My weakness is that I get there too early. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
let's get to it. So I think that's where I've missed on the couple that I have missed is the hungry piece. You find out there at home watching Oprah and not hitting the street.
Yeah. Any way of diagnosing that during the interview process?
Yeah, so that's funny because we did a lot of debriefs on that, right? Like, where could we have caught it? And I think the biggest thing that you can do in any hiring process is expose them to as many people as possible that are relevant to them, and then maybe even one or two that you just trust, right? Like that's something that you got to get people outside of your functional area, right? Navigating your culture within internally is as important as knowing how to sell something.
Yeah.
So if you can get a couple of those people that you trust to get in front of them too, the more eyes, the better.
Yeah.
That's what I came away with that has worked thus far.
Yeah. I mean, because if you can see a pattern of it, either the sports or some performance
Mm-hmm.
element
Yep.
seems to have a high correlation. Military seems to have a high correlation. Money motivated, when you know their
Yep.
motive,
Yep.
either intrinsically for themselves, competitive, or extrinsically, they've got 4 kids in private school, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah. And they're all in kindergarten. Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
with
you got
3
18 more
ex-wives.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
need to make some cash, baby.
right. So they view life as either they're chasing something or they're being chased,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Anyone who's comfortable, even keeled, starts asking about vacation policy and office
Yeah.
dog policy. You just
Yep.
know that it's not a match.
That's right.
Cool. Well, where do you like to take your sales career?
I'd like to. I'm running a full team across the country now, right? I had a smaller region before this, so that was on the checklist, right? I wanted to
Yeah.
kind of cover the country, and now it's on the checklist to get off of that. No, I'm just kidding. I love what I do. It's just the time zones are really tough. I think that as we grow our organization, we'll add that split up, but. I'd like to be a VP at one point. I want to set some direction, right? Down the road, probably some consulting, things like that.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So
And how do you guys differentiate yourself in? Because your client clearly wants to commoditize you.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, that's the most difficult question, right? Is how do you differentiate? Because in our space, many of our competitors can do everything that we can do, right? So to your point of commoditization, if I'm buying transportation, right, I'm looking at it as I'm going to pit these two, as long as their service level is there, which that we have competition that is there. I'm going to pit you two against each other, and I'm going to use you both, and I'm going to keep my stable really clean. And so when we're talking about this with customers in particular, but internally as well, our differentiating factor is we're tied to YRCW, which is a $5 billion organization, and they have 400 salespeople on the ground, right? And they're out there. They have 100-year relationships. Our companies, they have, some of them literally have 30-year relationships. They've been an account executive for so long and do a great job for us. So we keep, it's fantastic for both parties. So we want to leverage relationship. And I know everybody says that, but we have our competitive advantages that we already have a relationship that we can build off of, right? Now we just have to prove to you that Henry Logistics, which is the brand that we're with, is as it has the service level and the quality of the other YRCW brands.
Right, because your client, it costs. Sometimes it's their money
Yeah.
individually, but a lot of
Yep.
times it's not. It's the company's money,
Absolutely.
right? So they care more about that their back
Yep.
versus the budget.
Well, and that's where you get into it, right? Like that's where you're asking what is the buyer's KPIs, right? Because that's
Yes.
what they care. Many of them care about, hey, the product gets there safe, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, they're looking at the end of the quarter, what do I bonus someone? How do I protect that while still delivering the results that I have to deliver? So that
Right.
you got to back into that somehow, and it doesn't have to be sleazy car
No,
salesman, slick
no,
back hair guy. I mean,
just
it
the
just doesn't
opposite.
have. Like if you're genuine, like that is the number one thing I believe. If you, I think, and you could argue if you want, I truly think you can be in almost every industry if you are just genuine and nice, which they kind of go hand in hand. But if you are just genuine and nice, you could be an average salesperson and work hard. I guess I should throw that in there. Those three things. If you're willing to put in the work, you're genuine, and that's not that word carries a lot of weight, and you're a nice person, you could be average in any industry.
It is, which tells you that if you're not at least average,
Yeah. Check the boxes. Yeah. Which one am I missing?
which goes back to EQ, because you're
Yeah.
not evaluating yourself. Because no
Yep.
one's going to say I'm disgenuous.
Good call out. Yeah.
Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to say I'm not nice,
Yeah.
right? But for some reason, you're not being interpreted that way.
Yep.
So you're blind to something.
Well, and it's very possible that you haven't put in the work yet to care about the customer at all, right? So it's not even your fault. Why would you care about them? You got to put in the work to talk to them and build a relationship, and and that's when that genuine is a powerful word, because you can't fake it. That's literally the meaning of the word, right? So to get there is not I got to try harder to be genuine. No, you got to get there in different ways. You have to really care about the people that you're selling to, that you're working with, that you're working for, internal, external, whatever it is. If you're going to be genuine, it's a yes or no, right?
Yeah.
There's no, well, he was pretty genuine. No.
Because it reminds me of one of the stories when I did ship something. I shipped it on the low cost provider, and it showed up damaged. Now I got zero credit for trying to save the company money.
Yeah.
I got yelled at for the thing showing up broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People do need to understand what the client cares about. Everyone thinks it's just cost and service, but it's making them look good, letting them sleep at night.
Yeah. And especially, I would imagine this spans across, I can't speak to it because I've only been in transportation, right? From a sales perspective, but I would imagine this spans across. Just be honest, right? It's important that the shipment is there tomorrow, but it's more important that I know if it's not going to be there tomorrow. So as quickly as get in front of it, talk to the customer, walk through that stuff, because hey, every provider, there's not enough money in the world to get you away from some late deliveries, and some claims,
Accident.
right? Some damage. So you find a way to minimize those things, and then find a partner that'll work with you when you need them.
And that's one of the key elements of trust is predictability.
Hmm.
Meaning if something goes wrong, that you step up and get in front of it instead of reacting to it.
Yep.
You know, even
Go ahead.
even if you don't have a huge amount of information to give them,
Yep.
just
Yeah.
say, hey,
Every mistake, if you handle it properly, will become an opportunity,
yes,
or it could become the detriment of the entire account. I mean,
yeah.
and it's 100% up to you on how you handle it.
And a lot of people try and hide from it and hope it, brushes over time.
Not gonna happen. Yeah. Not gonna happen. Yeah. Hey, yeah, he's out. I'll make a call on him in a year. Maybe he won't. Maybe he won't be the decision maker anymore.
I'll use a different accent.
Yeah. No,
I'll disguise myself.
crazy. Yeah.
What advice, or maybe what would you have wished you'd done earlier in your career?
I wish I would have started reading earlier in my career.
Yeah.
I started that again in 2018. Like a book a month. Sometimes it's a month and a half or so. It depends on how much I'm traveling. I really get a lot of reading in on planes and stuff like that. But I wish I would have started that earlier. And I don't take much from all of them, but I take something from all of them. And I find myself, even more than the information that's in the book, I find myself sharper, more engaged, more curious. We talked about that word. When I'm reading than when I've slacked off for a month. So that's one really big one. Just self-development in general, right? It's not always about how hard are you hitting the street. It's about how hard are you hitting the street well, right?
Right.
So,
It forces you to think a little different.
yeah.
Because you're basically listening to someone else's thoughts.
Yep.
And that gets you a different perspective, and it cracks the I know it all mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter how well you understand the world, it's still incomplete.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
cool.
No, that's a great call out.
Hey, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect with you and follow you?
I would say LinkedIn's the best spot. Yeah. So I don't know if you'll link that or what, but Jameson Goforth on LinkedIn. I'm probably the only Jameson Goforth, so go for it.